So as I'm getting back into my roots of photography and concentrate on that more than what I have been, I wanted to give you a few different tips today on bad habits that you need to eliminate in order to see better results from your photography. How to make your photos look better and you feel better about them. The other day we talked about, not going out and taking the best images, but capturing the most perfect moments. Well, today I want to tell you how you can capture more perfect images so you don't have to be freaking out about it like I often do. So tip number one, and I'm going to hit this one really strong, is to occasionally stop posting to social media and start making prints of your photographs. Because when you make prints, and you can see these in bigger sizes, you're going to be able to see some of your mistakes as well as areas of improvement, whether this is the sharpness or depth of field of your images, the colors that you're going with, or the overall edits in general. You could see much more in a nice size print. Even an 8x10 will suffice versus just what you're seeing on your screen, especially if you're just looking at all your photos through social media on your cell phone. That's not the best way. And this was something that I had to overcome about a year or two ago because I got to the point where I no longer printed my photographs anymore. And I kind of lost feeling for what that was like to actually have a print right in front of me, at least of my newer imagery. And when I started printing off these photos, I could start to notice fine little details and areas that I needed to improve my work. So occasionally just leave it behind on social media. You can still post if you want, but be sure you're getting quality prints of your work periodically. Tip number two is probably going to hit home for a lot of people as well, and it's to stop buying inexpensive gear. I know that inexpensive gear is something I preach about quite heavily on my channel, and to a point, inexpensive gear and attachments and pieces are okay. But if you're really trying to be more professional and get better at things, it's best to start saving up the money and buy better things. Such as, if you're using a kit lens, consider buying some other type of lens that isn't a part of the kit. This could be a zoom or prime lens, it really doesn't matter. Just try to get yourself out of using that kit lens. If you're buying things like lights and flashes and other types of equipment like that, sure, the cheap stuff might get you through just a little bit, but it is always better to invest a little bit more money into higher quality gear to get you through. There's always going to be these little things and little factors that you're going to overlook when you're buying the inexpensive gear that you might take as, oh, that's no big deal, but somewhere down the road, it's going to cause you some issues. So tip number three comes in the editing process. If you're somebody that relies on presets, that's okay to get yourself started, but don't just think of presets as a way to just a point and you're done. And also, don't be buying a bunch of other people's presets so your photos look like theirs. If you really want to prevail in the photography world, you're going to have to get your own distinctive style that sets you apart from everybody else. Take my and Megan's wedding photographer, for example. One of the reasons that we hired her was because of her editing style. Her photos were very distinctive and looked a lot different than a lot of the competitors in the area. They looked the most professional, and for my eye, being a photographer myself, were the best overall quality. A lot of the other photographers, it was clear that they're using way too much saturation. Maybe they're using too much clarity and texture in their images to make them not look very realistic. The lighting wasn't the best either. Tip number three is to take more photos and edit down to less and stop putting out so many pieces of your work. A lot of times, photographers that have been around the game for a while will understand that you might go out and take 200 to 500 photos at a certain type of setting and only end up with about 10 to 20, maybe 30 if you're super lucky, images that you actually liked enough to keep. Whereas a lot of other photographers out there that are just getting their start, they're a little bit more amateurish and maybe don't know this, are trying to put out as many photos as possible to build up their quantity. But what you want to put out is quality work over quantity, at least when you're starting out. Over time, that bulk amount of photos will build up and you'll have a nice portfolio space. And it just so happens that some of those early photos you post probably won't stay in your portfolio forever. Those will definitely get changed out at some point or another. The next tip is you gotta stop procrastinating. I can't tell you how many times that I break this rule myself, is that I say that I want to go out and shoot somewhere, but instead I repurpose old images, try to edit them to look like something new and different and stunning, and I put it out into the world. Does it work for me? Yeah, kinda, but it's not very satisfactory. So if the point is, if you really in your mind say, I want to go and photograph this location or these people or whatever it is, just go out and do it. The more that you say you're going to do something and you don't do it, you're going to get that bad habit built up to the point where you're just not going to do it at all. And you're going to be like me for the past couple of years or so and just repurpose old content, not put out new stuff like you wish you were. And one of the last ones that I'm going to talk about today is comparison. You've got to stop comparing yourself to other photographers, even if it's ones that you look up to. Because the more you start deep diving into other people's work, the more you're going to want to try to emulate that. And maybe it's learning a new style, a technique, or just a method of creating a photo in general. That's fine if you want to use them to learn, but when you start to heavily mimic someone else, it doesn't really become your work anymore, and you're not doing yourself any favors in finding out your own unique style, look, and everything else. And when you start comparing yourself to other photographers out there, why are they getting more jobs? Why do they have a bigger following? Why are they making more money? Why? You're going to send yourself into this awful downward spiral that you just don't want to be in. So to avoid that altogether, sure, you can go look at other people's work and you can appreciate it, but don't try to be something that you're not. Let your own unique personality shine through and just be yourself. Create the types of photography that you want to create. But I want to see everybody be successful with their photography in 2022, and I want to teach a lot more about it as we go forward in the year. So if you have any questions specific to photography, cameras, anything like that, leave them in the comment section below. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go crank the heat down because it's entirely too hot in this house, and I'm going to have another glass of wine. But as always, be sure to create something new today.